What is the biggest secret you've ever kept from your family? Mom had a handmade heirloom blanket from her great-grandmother. When I was a kid, my action figures decided to torture my sister's Barbies for information on the location of the secret base. When the Barbie general still wouldn't talk after having her arm melted to a stump on the spinny bit on top of the lawnmower engine, she was forced to watch as her co-conspirators melted in a Tupperware vat of gasoline. When the interrogation started getting out of hand, I threw water on the gasoline to put out the fire, splashing it on the side of the house and setting the house on fire. I panicked, ran inside, grabbed the first heirloom blanket I could find and smothered the fire, melting one side of the blanket. My parents' relatively uninspired interrogation techniques were unable to solve the mystery of the missing heirloom. Sid, how's life been after Toy Story? He was working as garbage man on the third one. IRRC, decent pay and great benefits, seems to be doing alright. Hell yeah, good for him. That I was addicted to fentanyl for almost a year and then beat that addiction all on my own. I just passed 1 year off of it and I haven't considered going back once. My dad's brother adopted me. They didn't know I found my biological mom. I didn't talk to her though. Currently, this is a real possibility for my wife and I. Our nephews are with us. If their parents don't get their act together, we will adopt them. The oldest turns 1 in May, and the youngest is only a month old. I know it's a long time away, or it's even a possibility that we won't have to adopt them, but I still wonder how we're eventually supposed to let them know we adopted them and we're not their biological parents if their parents do not get their lives together. Edit. I did not think my comment would blow up like this, with so much insight and helpful advice. I really appreciate everyone's insight and suggestions on how to address the concerns I've been having. We have been referring to ourselves as aunt and uncle, and we thought it might confuse our daughter, who'll be 2 in June, but luckily that hasn't happened and she realizes we're mommy and daddy still. CPS and many other parties involved have asked us if we refer to ourselves as Mom and Dad to our nephews and we said no, partly out of uncertainty if we should. We still say Mama and Dada to help with our oldest nephew's development because he needs to learn crucial words. CPS and foster care have asked us if we are interested in becoming licensed to help side with the adoption process. We said we are so. If in the event my brother and the mother do not come through, we can keep these boys a part of the with family. They deserve it and I've unfortunately heard too many horror stories about foster care from friends and what I've read on Reddit. Although I know that's not always the case. My wife has been my absolute rock through all of this. I won't lie, it's beyond stressful caring for 3 children alone while she works, and I know it's stressful for her while I'm at work. But we are committed to this and our family. I started online classes this January for the betterment of my family and failing is not an option and never was before. Our nephews came to us because completing my IT degree will be such a life improvement for us, not that we live a bad life. I will show my wife everyone's response and I apologize for not being able to respond to all of them individually. Thank you all for the great advice. It means the world to myself and my wife. Heart. If you do adopt them, make sure you tell them early on and normalize it. It was hidden from me until my stepmother told me as punishment at the age of 10 that my dad wasn't my real dad. Being adopted isn't traumatic. It's how the adoption and communication is handled that can be fucking shit. That's some class A shit parenting. It reminded me of my best friend when we were about 12 years old. His mom was a nasty hag and she was arguing with him. She got so angry she dropped the, "You were a fucking mistake. I would be out living the good life away from you and you're worthless father if I didn't fuck up and get pregnant." What a fucked up family. As someone who was adopted just after his first birthday, let me give you one important piece of advice. Just tell them and tell them early. Don't sugarcoat it or make it seem like a big deal. It's just something that happens sometimes. Tell them that it doesn't matter if they're your biological children or not, that you love them all the same. I've always known that I was adopted, and to me it didn't matter because parents aren't the people who got drunk, fucked without protection and oops 9 months later had a kid. Parents, real parents, are the ones who care for you, raise you, comfort you when you need it, feed you, clothe you, and most importantly, love you. Biology isn't required for any of that. So as far as I'm concerned, blood doesn't matter. It's the people who love and care for you that do. Do that for them and you'll be fine. Even if they end up going back to their parents, my recommendation is to stay as involved as you can. Make sure your nephews know they have an aunt and, I'm assuming, uncle they can rely on and confide in. And GT. Parents. Real parents are the ones who care for you, raise you, comfort you when you need it, feed you, clothe you, and most importantly, love you. It can't be emphasized enough how correct this is. My brother was abandoned by his biological father, leaving my mom alone with a 1-year-old baby when she was only 19 years old. When she married my dad adopted my brother. He was 5 at the time. Well, 25 years later, Biodad shows up and wants to atone for his wrongdoings and be a part of his life. Nothing wrong with that in theory. But he asks to be called Dad. My brother told him he already has a dad, the man who raised him. That's honestly such a beautiful thing to do. If you're going to marry a woman with a fatherless child, different, I would imagine, if they have an involved dad just not in a relationship with mom. You must decide to be the dad. My partner hasn't seen his father since he was in kindergarten. He's not a positive person. Everyone is better off. But when his mom remarried, he wasn't interested in filling the gap. His sibling's father has nothing to do with him. He pretends it doesn't matter, but I know there's a dad-shaped hole there. Especially since there was someone physically present who didn't claim him. This was a long time ago. But I pretended to graduate from college after 4 years of my family paying for it. The last semester of my senior year I was told that because of an incomplete my sophomore year I wouldn't be graduating. When I promised to retake that class over the summer, they allowed me to march with my classmates in a cap and gown. Instead of telling my family the truth, I just went ahead with it. The whole family came, big party, etc. Of course I did not take the class that summer. That hung over my head for 20 plus years when after getting sober I completed my degree by working with the college and taking a local class. If anyone is reading this, listen to me. If you are close to graduation and haven't made it, reach out to the school. We will help you find a way across the finish line. You will have to work, but it will be worth it. There are people at your school that know how the institutional policy works and how to find the shortest distance between you and a degree. Don't be embarrassed about why you didn't finish or your previous academic struggles. We don't care. People can help. Great post, thank you. When I finally reached back out to my college, they were like, oh, you need to talk to Dean so-and-so. I was astonished there was a specific person to talk to for someone in my situation. And he laid out the path for me. No judgment, no shame. Totally the opposite. Ask for help. I had a miscarriage on my 17th birthday. I had found out I was pregnant 3 days after my HS boyfriend, and I had broken up when my sister caught him fucking my best friend. I didn't tell anyone I was pregnant, except him. I hadn't figured out what I was going to do yet, or how to tell them. Turned out to not matter, because 2 weeks later, again, on my birthday, I woke up in incredible pain and my bed was just covered in blood. I was home alone, so I just called my ex to take me to the hospital and never said a word to anyone in my family. He and the girl he cheated on me with showed up, and she cleaned up the bed while he drove me to the hospital. I had already passed the fetus. She found it. It messed me up for a long time, and I tried to kill myself not long after that. My family does know about that, but they assumed it was a combination of my anxiety meds and my breakup. Those were factors, but the miscarriage was a big factor, too. ETA, thank you everyone for the kind words. This was nearly 15 years ago now, and I'd say I be healed now. I still think about it from time to time. Think about how I'd have a teenager by now, and how different my life would be. I came out as gay about 5 years later, started dating a woman and moved across the country with her, later marrying her. We have no children. I'm grateful that I could heal and see a better life for myself after that. And GT. She cleaned up the bed while he drove me to the hospital. As fucked up as the whole situation was, that's one hell of a way to show that deep down. You're a good person. I'd have had a hard time holding a grudge with either one of them after that. Seems like they kept your secret as well. Reddit will tell you anyone that cheats is the devil, but this is a great example of people are people. They can do shitty things and they can do good things. It's not so black and white. Also, all three of them were teenagers. They are testing boundaries and still learning and growing mentally and emotionally. I hope that both cheaters learned from this and